Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod, your weekly video podcast for completely custom Magic the Gathering sets. This week we've got a pretty unusual one of my favorite movies of all time. I'd like to say favorite movie of all time, but you ever have somebody ask you that question and then it's like there's just too many movies out there to really say for sure that it's your favorite, but this has got to be. It's certainly one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time. That's right, The Shawshank Redemption. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't that weird to make a Magic the Gathering set out of a weird, like, dramatic, sort of sad movie, such as The Shawshank Redemption? And I say to you, no, it is not. I like to do unusual movie custom Magic sets as well. I think The Shawshank Redemption is considered one of the greatest movies of all time, even by critics. If you've never seen it, it's a movie about a man who goes to prison wrongfully for the murder of his wife. And it's basically a prison escape story. And he spends 20 years in prison before escaping. Sorry, spoiler alert. But he meets a bunch of cool characters along the way. The prison is called Shawshank. And you see that there's a lot of corruption, which is also the name of the mechanic from the set, at the prison amongst the staff and the warden of the prison. So, excellent movie. The movie was adapted from a Stephen King short story, which is already weird because it's a long movie, but it was adapted from a short story. And some liberties were taken, some things were changed from Stephen King's story. But Frank Darabont directed it, just did an amazing job. If the name sounds familiar with Frank Darabont, it's because he also did the first season, at least directed a few episodes of the first season of The Walking Dead, which is considered by a lot of people as being the best season. So Shawshank Redemption, amazing movie. Let's get through to the cards here. All right, we start with Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, and he's the man who was wrongfully convicted of the murder of his wife. He's sent to this prison. Oh yeah, I also need to explain. This is set back in, I believe it's the 20s. I want to say it's that far back. It could be a little bit further forward, like 30s or 40s, but I'm pretty sure. I want to say it's the 20s. I guess it could be the 30s too. But anyway, it's definitely set in early 20th century America. I believe it's set in Maine, too, which is where the prison is. So Andy Dufresne, your main protagonist of the story, very quiet man who, develops his relationships with the prisoners, has to go through, because he's a banker on the outside, and, he's not like a lot of these prisoners. He's not like a bad person. He's a wrongfully convicted man, so you're rooting for him because you're so scared. It's such a scary idea to be wrongfully imprisoned, if you're not even like a alpha male sort of character where it's just so easy to die in prison when you're not used to that element, or even when you are used to that element, it's easy to die. So it's very scary, dramatic movie in that sense. So Andy Dufresne, 2 colorless, a white and a blue for a 2/3 legendary human prisoner creature. And yes, I made a new creature type called Prisoner. And actually, if you look back at my Willow custom Magic set, I had a Prisoner token back then. So maybe that was sort of a prelude to the Prisoner creature type here. So Andy Dufresne, human prisoner. His abilities: other prisoner creatures you control get +0/+1 and have vigilance. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-0. So weakens. I've never seen a lord that weakens your opponent's creatures while pumping your creatures. Actually, I take that back. I guess Elish Norn did it, but Elish Norn also was more of almost like a board wipe. This Andy can't actually like kill your opponent's creatures. He just makes them weaker. And he's a pretty specific lord since I've only had prisoner creatures, like I said, in this and one in Willow. But overall, I would think that's a pretty powerful effect. Being a creature that weakens your opponent's creatures is pretty nice. I think there actually has been a creature, and I know there has, I just can't remember the name, that's given all your opponent's creatures -1, -0. I'll have to look into that. But okay, so you're introduced to Andy. Next you have Captain Hadley. And this is the beginning of the corruption that's at Shawshank. So Captain Hadley is the captain of the guards at the prison, and he's just a very despicable person. He commits atrocities. He kills prisoners. He just beats prisoners mercilessly. He's very cruel. So very hateable character. He's 2 colorless, a white and a black for a legendary human soldier creature. He's a rare. He's a 3/3. He has the ability Corruption, which is the mechanic of this set. And Corruption is, at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player pays 2 or loses 1 life. So, a nice ongoing effect, certainly. Not like overpowered at all, but pretty playable, I would say. It's nice to have something that makes them lose life without you having to put any work into it. His other ability is a white and a black tap target creature. If it's a prisoner creature, put a -1/-1 counter on it. And yeah, Captain Hadley, very hateable character. He gets his in the end, so at least you can cheer about that. But yes, Captain Hadley. Moving on, we have Warden Norton. So Warden is similarly a very despicable character. He preaches about the Bible and the good book and doing God's work, but at the same time he accepts bribes. He does all sorts of illegal activities. Very despicable as well. So he also has the corruption ability as well. He's 3 colorless, a white and a black for a human Archon creature. He's a rare. He's a 1/5. He has protection from prisoners. He also has corruption. And whenever an opponent pays for a corruption ability, you gain that much life. So they pay the 2 mana or they lose the 1 life. Either way, Warden Norton is benefiting you, either making them lose life or you gaining life. And pro prisoners in a prisoner-heavy set would, of course, be a very powerful ability as well. But yes, Warden Norton also gets his in the end, much to the satisfaction of the viewer. Next, we have Ellis Redding, played by Morgan Freeman. And this is like amazing. This is like the breakout role for Morgan Freeman. You know how, Morgan Freeman, all the comics do the bits about the Morgan Freeman voice. You hear it in your head when you hear the narration. This is like the Morgan Freeman narration movie. This is where it all began. And he really, truly does just a magnificent job of narrating this movie. Very entertaining. If you haven't seen Shawshank, you really have to see it. The score, the music, the acting, everything. It's really just truly a masterpiece of a movie. Anyway, back to Ellis Redding. They just call him Red in the movie. So he's 2 colorless, a blue and a red for a 1/4 legendary human prisoner creature. He's a rare. He has a blue and a red, discard a card, and then tap, search your library for an artifact card and reveal it. Shuffle your library and put the card on top of it. And then his flavor text is, I'm known to locate certain things from time to time. So Red is kind of one of these guys at the prison that can gather possessions for prisoners. So if they need like playing cards, bubble gum, porno magazines, whatever they want. Ellis Red is the guy you go to. You give him whatever money or whatever he needs, and he'll get it to you. So a man that can get things. So I wanted to definitely have that flavor on his card. And I didn't want to make the tutor effect too good. So you do have to discard a card. So it's actually strictly card disadvantage, because not only do you have to discard a card, but you have to get rid of your draw for the next turn. But being able to locate any artifact card in your deck and being able to do it every turn, I figure at that point, yes, you should probably, it should be a little bit of a drawback. So not actual card advantage. Still very powerful. Okay, next we have Brooks the Librarian. This is an an old man who is the librarian at the prison, and he's sort of the example of the institutionalized prisoner. So the person that's been in prison longer than he's actually been outside of prison in his life. I believe he served 50 years in prison, and unfortunately, he does not survive. Spoiler alert: does not survive on the outside. So eventually, after 50 years in prison, he gets parole and he gets out and he gets a job, but he just can't survive out there. It's too depressing. It's like he left his home and he just wants to go back. So really, just a glaring example of the institutionalized life of a prisoner who spent, multiple life sentences worth of time in prison. So Brooks the Librarian is a colorless and a white for a 2/2 legendary human prisoner creature. He's a rare. He has a blue and tap. He has an ability, blue and tap, put a legendary 1/2 blue bird creature token with flying and tap, look at target player's hand, named Jake onto the battlefield. So you're introduced to Brooks early in the cafeteria, and you see that he's got a little crow with him, a little bird or a raven, and it's it's a little bird that's his pet. So the symbolism is once he leaves prison, he lets the bird go, and it's like him being, the bird let out of prison. So I like the idea of, I like it when creatures make creatures. I always like those cards. They're very good. I didn't want this one to be able to make birds every turn, and since Jake is actually the name of his bird in the movie, he had to be legendary. So you can only make one at a time, but a nice thing you could do with Brooks is, make a bird, chump block, or trade with something, and then you get to make another bird. You get to make them again. So definitely a powerful ability still, especially on a 2-mana 2/2. I always like the white bears with abilities, though, that are rares. Those are always cool. So, and I like that Jake can look at player's hand. He's a bird. He can fly, so he's able to get information that you normally could not get. Next, we have a tunneling rock hammer. So this is what Andy uses to actually dig a hole through his prison wall for 20 years to get through the wall to finally escape the prison. And it's just a tiny little hobby hammer. But tunneling rock hammer is a 2-mana artifact. It's an uncommon. It has tap. Target creature you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So when Andy asks Red to get him the hammer, Red is, of course, very, skeptical about doing that because that kind of contraband is certainly banned and prohibited in the prison. And Red could get in a lot of trouble if he were to get caught bringing that in. But Andy says, just get the hammer and take a look at it, and you'll know why you shouldn't be worried about it. And when Red gets it, he, of course, says it would take a man about 600 years to tunnel under the wall with one of these hammers. But the funny thing is Andy does it in 20 years. So very interesting there. And yes, this is usually just a red effect. Red and blue are kind of notorious for getting evasion abilities, whether it be intimidate or unblockable. But I figured, that ability could be on an artifact and probably not cause any issues. It's pretty, it's pretty narrow where it can only be used on creatures power 2 or less. Next, we have the Book of Hiding. So this is Andy's sort of clever way to keep the hammer hidden throughout the entire movie. And in fact, this information is only revealed right at the end of the movie. So the warden provides all of the prisoners with the Bible because he wants them to read the Bible. And Andy, in a very clever way, carves out the shape of a hammer inside of the book and is able to stash his hammer in there. And they never check inside of his Bible. He's very lucky they never check inside of his Bible for 20 years. I imagine he would get in a world of trouble if they saw, if the warden, who's supposedly this pious man, sees that Andy carved it up, such a religious item such as a Bible. All right, so the Book of Hiding is also an uncommon artifact. It's two colorless artifact. It has 2 and tap. Exile another target artifact you control with converted mana cost 3 or less. Return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So it's kind of just hiding artifacts. This is a pretty narrow artifact ability, since it can only exile other artifacts with converted mana cost 3 or less, so kind of serves as a little bit of protection for artifact creatures, or artifact permanents, I guess. And I guess if any artifacts with converted mana cost 3 or less have Into the Battlefield effects, it kind of lets you reuse those. So this would be kind of cool with the Wellsprings from Mirrodin Besieged. Or Scars too. Mycosynth Wellspring and Ichor Wellspring would be pretty cool synergies with Book of Hiding. Next we have Boggs and the Sisters. So during Andy's sort of early arrival into the prison, he's tormented by a prisoner named Boggs and his gang, which are known as the Sisters. So I made Boggs sort of a red Brimaz. He's very similar to Brimaz. So I believe he's the only mythic in this set. And Boggs and the Sisters is 1 colorless and 2 red for a legendary human prisoner creature. He has Intimidate. He's a 2/2. Whenever Boggs and the Sisters attacks, put 2 1/1 red human prisoner creature tokens onto the battlefield attacking. Exile the tokens at the beginning of the next end step. And whenever Boggs and the Sisters blocks a creature, put 2 red human prisoner creature tokens onto the battlefield blocking that creature. Exile the tokens at the beginning of the next end step. I just realized I forgot to put the 1/1 on the second part of that ability, so I'm going to have to fix that. But yes, Boggs, so kind of a red Brimaz. He's got evasion, unlike Brimaz, but you don't get to keep the creature tokens, unlike Brimaz. So there's definitely some similarities and some differences. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this design. This would be a cool red card to see, because he's got the sort of evasion and potentially 4 damage getting through with the addition of the, red human prisoner creature tokens. This would be good with like Trumpet Blast and stuff like that. So pretty powerful mythic. Next we have Tommy, Revealer of Truth. And this is just a prisoner that comes later. I called him the Revealer of Truth because he actually ended up spending time in prison with the actual man that killed Andy's wife. So of course, Tommy is very important to Andy, and the Warden at this point values Andy for his accounting skills. He kind of has him doing his taxes, and he's kind of grown fond of him as a prisoner inside of his prison. So the Warden, being the unscrupulous, horrific man that he is, straight up confronts Tommy late at night out in the back of the prison, the rec area of the prison, and asks Tommy if he's actually going to pursue, going on the witness stand and saying the information that he knows about the true killer that killed Andy's wife. And Tommy says, yes, I'd love to help him. And the Warden has Captain Hadley shoot Tommy. So straight up just a murderer just to keep Andy at the prison, if it goes to show you how horrible of a man that he is. So Tommy is 2 red for a 2/2 human prisoner, legendary human prisoner. He's a rare. He has 2 red and tap. Target opponent reveals the top card of his or her library. Tommy, Revealer of Truth, deals damage to the player and itself equal to the revealed card's converted mana cost. So I was kind of happy with how this card turned out. He's basically revealing the information that Andy wanted, and in return, he gets killed and he damages, of course, the person who's actually committed the crime. So this would be, think about if you revealed an Emrakul or something, 15 damage. So potential huge power with Tommy's ability as a one-time use. But you reveal a 1 converted mana cost. He doesn't actually kill himself. You reveal a land. You just get information. Kind of cool card. I like how he would play. I think he'd be a fun, probably commander card or something. I bet, he could possibly see some constructed play. I'm not sure. I guess that when it all boils down to it, he's a 2-mana 2/2, so nothing crazy. Finally, we have Life-Altering Escape. This is a very iconic picture in the movie. You can see Andy shirtless out in the rain. This is right when he escapes from prison. He has to crawl through a pipe full of sewage, which, by the way, would kill you. I believe it was multiple football fields worth of pipe that he crawls through. That would certainly kill you. You can't breathe methane for an extended period of time like that. It would certainly asphyxiate you. But looking past that, he finally gets through it, and he gets his revenge on Shawshank, which is just such a satisfying ending to the movie. So Life-Altering Escape is 1 colorless and 2 white. It's an uncommon instant. Exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it's a prisoner creature, it loses that creature type and enters with 2+1/+1 counters on it. So potentially a very good combat trick with prisoners. You know, you have a tapped prisoner, they attack, you exile your prisoner, you return it. It loses the prisoner creature type, but it gets 2+1/+1 counters. So could be an excellent. It's kind of like a dragon scale boon in white a little bit. But yes, I love the Shawshank Redemption. I hope you guys do too. I certainly recommend watching it if you haven't. I hope you're enjoying the Fate Reforged drafts. I've been looking at the Dragons of Tarkir spoilers. It looks like a really fun set, so I'm excited to do the full block eventually. So thanks for tuning in, and yeah, we'll see you next week.